I did a very, very long segment talking about angry orange doofus Trump pulling out of the Iran deal. And what we're going to be looking at here is Obama's comment on this happening. Now, you guys know I'm a staunch critic from the left of Obama, but this is somewhere that Obama deserves credit, and that's why it should be given. Now, I'm going to read you guys his post on this. It's going to be lengthy, but bear with me. So he says, there are a few issues more important than the security of the United States than the potential spread of nuclear weapons or the potential for even more destructive war in the Middle East. That's why the United States negotiated the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action in the first place. The reality is clear. The JCPOA is working. That is a view shared by European allies, independent experts, and the current U.S. Secretary of Defense. The JCPOA is in America's interest. It has significantly rolled back Iran's nuclear program, and the JCPOA is a model for what diplomacy can accomplish. Its inspections and verification regime is precisely what the United States should be working to put in place with North Korea. Indeed, at a time when we are all rooting for diplomacy with North Korea to succeed, walking away from the JCPOA risks losing a deal that accomplishes with Iran the very outcome that we are pursuing with the North Koreans. This is why today's announcement is so misguided. Walking away from the JCPOA turns our back on America's closest allies in an agreement that our country's leading diplomats, scientists, and intelligence professionals negotiated. In a democracy, there will always be changes in policies and priorities from one administration to the next, but the consistent flouting of agreements that our country is a party to risks eroding America's credibility and puts us at odds with the world's major powers. Debates in our country should be informed by facts, especially debates that have proven to be divisive. So it's important to review several facts about the JCPOA. First, the JCPOA was not just an agreement between my administration and the Iranian government. After years of building an international coalition that could impose crippling sanctions on Iran, we reached the JCPOA together with the United Kingdom, France, Germany, the European Union, Russia, China, and Iran. It's a multilateral arms control deal unanimously endorsed by a United Nations Security Council resolution. Second, the JCPOA has worked in rolling back Iran's nuclear program. For decades, Iran had steadily advanced its nuclear program, approaching the point where they could rapidly produce enough fissile materials to build a bomb. The JCPOA put a lid on that breakout capacity. Since the JCPOA was implemented, Iran has destroyed the core of a reactor that could have produced weapons-grade platinum, removed the two-thirds of centrifuges, over 13,000, and placed them under international monitoring, and eliminated 97% of its stockpile of enriched uranium, the raw materials necessary for a bomb. So by any measure, the JCPOA has imposed strict limitations on Iran's nuclear program and achieved real results. Third, the JCPOA does not rely on trust. It is rooted in the most far-reaching inspections and verification regime ever negotiated in an arms control deal. Iran's nuclear facilities are strictly monitored. International monitors also have access to Iran's entire nuclear supply chain, so we can catch them if they cheat. Without the JCPOA, this monitoring and inspections regime would go away. Fourth, Iran is complying with the JCPOA. That was not simply the view of my administration. The United States intelligence community has continued to find that Iran is meeting its responsibilities under the deal and has reported as much to Congress. So have our closest allies in the international agency responsible for verifying Iranian compliance, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. Fifth, the JCPOA does not expire. The prohibition on Iran ever obtaining a nuclear weapon is permanent. Some of the most important and intrusive inspections codified by the JCPOA are permanent. Even as some of the provisions in the JCPOA do become less strict with time, this won't happen until 10, 15, 20, or 25 years into the deal. So there's little reason to put those restrictions at risk today. Finally, JCPOA has never tended to solve all of our problems with Iran. We were clear-eyed that Iran engages in destabilizing behavior, including support for terrorism and threats towards Israel and its neighbors. But that's precisely why it was so important that we prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Every aspect of Iranian behavior that is troubling is far more dangerous if their nuclear program is unconstrained. Our ability to confront Iran's destabilizing behavior and to sustain a unity of purpose with our allies is strengthened with the JCPOA and weakened without it. Because of these facts, I believe that the decision to put the JCPOA at risk without any Iranian violation of the deal is a serious mistake. Without the JCPOA, the United States could eventually be left with the losing choice between a nuclear-armed Iran or another war in the Middle East. We all know the dangers of Iran obtaining a nuclear weapon. It could embolden an already dangerous regime, threaten our friends with destruction, pose unacceptable dangers to America's own security, and trigger an arms race in the world's most dangerous region. If the constraints on Iran's nuclear program under the JCPOA are lost, we could be hastening the day when we are faced with the choice between living with that threat or going to war to prevent it. In a dangerous world, America must be able to rely in part on strong, principled diplomacy to secure our country. We have been safer in the years since we achieved the JCPOA, thanks in part to the work of our diplomats, many members of Congress and our allies. Going forward, I hope that America continues to speak out in support of the kind of strong, principled, facts-based, and unifying leadership that can best secure our country and uphold our responsibilities around the globe. Now, of course, that was kind of a lengthy post that I went through, but it made me realize that I do kind of miss at least having a president who is at least knowledgeable, both knowledgeable on issues and also someone who is articulate and can form together a fucking sentence. Because the truth is, Trump doesn't know jack shit. And as I explained in my very, very extremely lengthy and long segment about this, I talked about how there's been a goalpost shift. And every single goalpost that had been put up was completely destroyed by Obama in this whole thing. He explained how, okay, you're claiming that they're not following the deal, but not only did my administration say it, the UN says it, the IAEA says it, and your own U.S. Secretary of Defense says it. So he says that's not a reason. That's completely debunked. They claimed that there was this sort of thing that was going to expire eventually, and they don't want to fix that. But it's like, why would you destroy an entire deal over a provision that's something that a bridge we can cross for 5, 10, 15, 20 years in advance? And then he goes on to say, every situation that we could possibly be in without the JCPOA makes everything worse. Without the Iran deal, makes everything worse. Because now what you're looking at is, instead of just having Iran as they are now, what you're looking at is having an Iran that is already in this conflicts with Israel, etc., etc., but now them having nuclear weapons. So through their own stupidity and having their heads up their asses, they're showing that they don't understand very simple facts and just obvious answers. And then he also basically went on to say that you can't just keep eroding these deals, because when you do that, what ends up happening? When you erode these deals, what ends up happening is the view of the United States goes down. It becomes worse. So basically, you keep destroying all diplomatic and peacemaking deals, and what happens? People don't trust the United States anymore, just like Palestine did. They said, oh, you're gonna recognize Jerusalem as the Israeli capital? Well, you're not a rational actor, and you're not someone who's rationally being a mediator between the two of us. You're rather being, I'm gonna get everything I can for Israel, and that's what they've been doing since forever. That's literally what they've been doing. So not only do I miss sort of someone who actually understands shit, but, it's just nice to see a factual, measured, eloquent response to all of the bullshit that Trump and his goons are spewing.